Let's finish tidying up this clock. I want to get rid of this little bit of side-to-side motion. Because we're using a 12-hour time display, I'd like to display the meridian, that is, whether it's AM or PM, and deal with any edge cases we can think of, like what happens during the midnight hour. We'll deal with the jumpiness first. Right now, I'm either displaying a colon or a space, and they're not the same width, so it kind of shifts things around a little bit. Instead, I think I'd like to always display this colon, but just make it transparent or white. Let's go back to our code and take care of that first. Here in Visual Studio Code, I have my separator right here. What we're going to do is we're going to wrap that in a class. So I'm going to create a variable for that class first, which will initially be set to nothing. This project includes a class called trans, short for transparent. And so now instead of making the separator into a space when the number of seconds is odd, we're going to change the class. So I'm going to bring this down here. I'll change this separator to separator class. And I'll cut this and bring it up here. Okay, that's part one. Part two will be to actually use that class on the separator. So I'm going to change my specification for my separator to include this class. We'll say that the class equals, and we'll use the separator class here. Okay, great. We'll save this and refresh. And there we go, not the slightest bit of movement. Rock solid. Okay, let's add the AM and PM now. I'm going to add another variable here. We'll call it AM PM. And we will set it initially to AM, like this. I'm going to display it down here. And actually, let's bring the minutes up into a variable as well, just for cleanliness and consistency. So I'm going to show the hour, then the separator, then the minutes, and then AM PM. And actually, I'll put a space in between them. There, that seems like it should work. Now, right now, this is always going to display AM. But when the hours go past 12, I want it to change to PM. So here, I will set AM PM equal to PM. Okay, that all looks pretty good to me. Just add a little more white space for readability. Great. Now I'm saved. We'll go back to the browser and take a look. Oh, hey, this is exciting. We'll have to deal with that next. We'll refresh that, and here we are, 2 o'clock p.m. So let's deal with this strange display of the minutes. Because the number of minutes is less than 10, it's just giving me the integer, and I'm just passing that right through without trying to format it nicely by adding a leading 0 in front of it. That's easy enough to fix. So we'll say if the number of minutes is less than 10, my minutes should be formatted as a string that starts with a 0. So I'll say minutes is a 0 plus whatever the current number of minutes is. We'll save that again. There we go, much better. There's one more thing to take care of here. When it's 1 o'clock in the morning, get hours gives us a 1. 2 o'clock in the morning, it's 2. But what happens at midnight? Well, in JavaScript, the number of hours is going to be 0, and we don't want 0 to display here. So we need to add a special case for handling that as well. We'll deal with that here in our little control structure that's dealing with the hours. So if the hours are greater than 12, we're handling that. Or, else if the number of hours is exactly 0, we will set hours to 12. So it will display as midnight with 12 instead of 0. We're not going to see that right now, but we know that that's something we'll run into later, and so we've added it to make sure it'll work. With all these changes made, our clock is looking and working very nice indeed.